we're just going to kind of introduce this 30, 60, 90 triangle to you. Take you through a few examples. And then we'll spend some more time on it tomorrow. Remember back to Thursday or Friday, we showed you 45, 45, 90 triangle. Today we're going to show you 30, 60, 90. I'm going to put them both right next to each other because when we get to the test and the quiz, you will see both of these. So 45, 45, 90 triangle. If you remember back to last week, on a 45, 45, 90 triangle, your hypotenuse is equal to a leg times the square root of 2. And then today we're going to get the 30, 60, 90, which actually has two different equations that go with it. 30, 60, 90 triangle is going to have a 30-degree angle, a 60-degree angle, and a 90-degree angle. And let's start with a picture of this. 30, 60, 90 triangle is going to have a 30-degree angle, a 60-degree angle, and a 90-degree angle. And then there's three parts on the 30, 60, 90 triangle we need to know because 45, 45, 90 triangle, the two legs were both the same. That's not going to be the case on 30, 60, 90 triangle. So the first thing is the side across from the right angle, which we know is the hypotenuse. And then we're going to have two legs, one across from the 30-degree angle, one across from the 60-degree angle. Now, think about it, 60-degree angle opens up more. So the side across from that is going to be longer than the side that's across from the 30-degree angle. The 30-degree angle doesn't open up quite as much. So across from the 30-degree angle is going to be your shorter leg. And across from the 60-degree angle is going to be the longer leg. And we're going to use those to come up with our two equations that we'll use for the 30, 60, 90. And we'll start with the simpler of the two. The simpler of the two, and both of these come from the Pythagorean theorem. I'm not going to take you through and show you like I did with the 45, 45, 90. But these both come from the Pythagorean theorem. The hypotenuse on your 30, 60, 90 triangle is going to be 2 times the shorter leg. That one's a pretty easy one to remember. And then your second equation is the longer leg. To find the longer leg, you're going to take the shorter leg times the square root of 3. Now, just like the 45, 45, 90 triangle, if you can remember those two equations, then it's just a matter of putting in the parts and then doing the algebra to solve it. So it's going to look a lot like we did when we did 45, 45, 90 last week. All right, I've got 3 examples I'm going to show you today. And if you remember back to 45, 45, 90, we usually just have you find one missing thing. Today we're going to have you find 2. So they're going to tell you to find x and y. Which means you're going to use both of these equations. One to find x, one to find y. And just like with the 45, 45, 90 triangle, sometimes they're going to show you both angles. Sometimes they're just going to give you one. On this one, they're going to tell us we have a 60-degree angle here. You know, the little box in the corner means we have a right angle. And all three angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if you take 90 and 60 and add them together, you get 150. That leaves you 30 for this angle up here. Sometimes they'll put that in, sometimes they don't. So we're just going to leave it without right here. And then they're going to tell you some parts on this one. Let's see, we're going to have a Y over here, we have an X down here, and we have a 10 for the hypotenuse. And then over the years from teaching this several different times, we have found the easiest way to do this is to kind of mark your sides. The side across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. The side across from the 60, is that going to be the shorter one or the longer one? That's longer. The longer side is across from the bigger angle. And then your 30-degree angle would be up here. Across from that's going to be your shorter side. Shorter side is always across from the smaller angle. And now we're going to put those in. So at this point, you kind of just have to decide whether you want to find the longer or the shorter leg. I'm going to start with this shorter one down here. The shorter leg shows up in both equations. I'm going to start with this one on top. Hypotenuse equals 2 times the shorter leg. And then just like last week, it's just a matter of putting the parts in. Your hypotenuse is 10. We have 2 times the shorter leg. Your shorter leg on the picture is x. This one you're pretty familiar with. To solve for x, you just divide both sides by 2. X would equal 5. We're halfway there. We got the x. Now we also have to find the y. Y is your longer side. And if you look at your 2 equations up here, the only one that includes the longer side is the second equation. So we're going to use that one. And that will help us find y. And then once again, it's just a matter of plugging parts in. The longer side is y. Shorter side on this one, we just found it's x. We just found x to be 5. And then you got the square root of 3 behind it. This number right here is in simplest radical form. That's all the further you have to go with that one. All right, there's our first example of that. Now, that was a fairly simple one. There will be times when you have to do rationalizing the denominator, things like that, to get simplest radical form. When they give you the hypotenuse, that's the easiest of the versions of them. All right, any questions with that one before I switch over? All right, let's try another one. This time, they're going to give us 30-degree angle on top. This one, they're actually going to put in both 30 to 60 and 90. The first one they gave us, they told us what the hypotenuse is. This time they're going to tell us what the side across from the 30-degree angle is. It's going to be 21. And we have y and we have x. And then eventually we're going to use both equations, so we might as well write them both down. So if you want to go back, your equation, hypotenuse is 2 times the shorter. I'm going to start to abbreviate a little bit. Hypotenuse equals 2 times the shorter. And I'm going to leave a little room, we'll put the other one. Longer is equal to shorter times the square root of 3. And then you can start with either one of the equations. It really doesn't matter. If you kind of pick the wrong equation, you'll end up with two variables, which we'll try to start with the other one. I'm going to start with the top one here. Hypotenuse equals 2 times the shorter leg. If I put in the parts, hypotenuse on this one is x. And we have a 2, and our shorter leg is going to be across. I should have done this to start with. Let's go back and mark our picture. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. Across from the 30-degree angle is going to be your shorter leg. And across from the 60-degree angle is going to be your longer leg. I should have done that first. Then you can put in your parts. Hypotenuse is going to be x. We got the 2, and then your shorter leg is across from that 30-degree angle. Shorter leg is 21. 2 times 21 we can do. 2 times 21 is 42. Now we'll keep that in mind as we do the next one. X represents the hypotenuse. X is going to be 42. Now to get y, we'll go to the second equation. We're going to start with the longer leg. The longer leg is across from the 60. That's going to be the y. And we want the shorter leg. Shorter leg is across from the 30-degree angle. That's 21. We got the square root of 3 behind it. That's in simplest radical form. That's all further you have to go. All right, let's do one more together. Let's see, this time around they're going to mark the 60-degree angle. And let's see, we got 12 and x and a y. Now, this one, they gave you the 90, they gave you the 60. That means this one's going to be 30 up here, even though they don't mark it. You got 30, 60, 90 triangle. I'm going to mark the parts of our triangle. Across from the right angle is always your hypotenuse. Across from the 60-degree angle is going to be your longer side. And then across from that 30-degree angle is going to be the shorter side. And over here to the right, I'm going to put our two equations. For 30, 60, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse is going to be 2 times the shorter leg. And then the longer leg is going to be shorter leg times the square root of 3. And then we start putting in our parts. Since we're the first two, we started with the first equation. Let's go ahead and do that. First equation, hypotenuse on this one is y. So we have a 2, and your shorter leg is going to be across from that 30-degree angle. Shorter leg is x. We have y equals 2x. Can I solve that? No, we got 2 different variables. Can't solve that yet. So what that means is I have to go to the next equation, solve this one, and then I can put something back in here when I do that. So let's take the second equation. Longer leg is across from the 60-degree angle. That's the 12. It's going to equal the shorter leg, which is x, times the square root of 3. And now we're going to get back to seeing some stuff that you're used to seeing when we did the 45, 45, 90 triangle. We have 12 equals x times the square root of 3. I want to get x all by itself. What would I do to both sides to get x all alone? How are you going to move the 3, square root of 3? Can't just move it. We got to do something on both sides. Yep. We're going to divide it. Divide by the square root of 3. And the reason for doing that, square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3 becomes 1. That leaves you an x on the right. On the left, you've got a square root of 3 in the denominator. So I'm going to put a little space here. We can't leave the square root of 3 in the denominator. So what we have to do is multiply by a fraction equivalent to 1 that includes the square root of 3. That fraction would be the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And then just like last week, we multiply across the top. We get 12 times the square root of 3. If we do our shortcut on the bottom, what's the square root of 3 times the square root of 3? 3. And then these can be reduced. 12 and 3 can both be divided by 3. So let's go ahead and do that. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Answer in simplest radical form would be 4 times the square root of 3. That gets us the x. Now, we still haven't found the y because our first equation had 2 variables in it. So what I'm going to do is take this x and put it back in up here. That gives me y equals 2. And then x is going to be replaced by 4 times the square root of 3. And when we multiply those together, 2 times 4 times the square root of 3, that'd be like in math, like in algebra last year. If you had 2 times 4x, what's 2 times 4x? 8x. You multiply the numbers out front, keep the x behind it. Same thing with the square root here. We're going to multiply the numbers out front, keep the square root behind it. 2 times 4 is 8. Square root of 3 stays behind it. There's our answer in simplest radical form. All right, it's only day 1 here. But how many think they're starting to get the hang of this already? How many think they can do one all by themselves at this point? Okay. Let's try one more. We're going to mark all the angles here. We've got a 30, a 60, and a 90. And across from the 60, we're going to have a 5. We've got the x and the y. And before I even put the equations down, let's go ahead and mark the parts here. Across from the right angle is your hypotenuse. Across from the 30-degree angle is your shorter leg. Across from the 60 is the longer leg. And we've got to find both x and y, so we're going to use both equations. Let's mark them both down here. On a 30, 60, 90 triangle, your hypotenuse is 2 times the shorter leg. And I'll leave a little space here. Your longer leg is going to be the shorter leg times the square root of 3. All right, now we'll put in our parts. First equation, you have hypotenuse equals 2 times the shorter leg. Your hypotenuse on this one is x. You have a 2, and then your shorter leg is the y. X equals 2y. We solve that?
No.
Nope, can't solve that. Got 2 different variables. So let's go to the second equation. We'll solve that first and then come back and put it in here. Longer leg is 5. That's going to equal the shorter leg, which is y, times the square root of 3. We're right back to where we were before. I have to get the y all by itself. What would I do to both sides? Divide it by the square root of 3. When you do that, those reduce down to 1. Leaves you a y on the right. Left-hand side, you have 5 over the square root of 3. Now, just like last week, you can't leave a square root in the denominator, so we're going to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. When you do that on top, you get 5 times the square root of 3. On the bottom, your shortcut, square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is 3. Can this be reduced? No, that's as far as that one's going to go. So it kind of looks like a mess, but that's going to be your answer for y. 5 times the square root of 3 over 3. Now that we've got y, we can come up here and put it in, so we can solve this one. X is going to equal 2y. We just found y to be 5 times the square root of 3 over 3. And now you can think of this 2 out front as 2 over 1. You don't have to put the 1 underneath if you don't want to. But now you can multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom if you do that. 2 times 5 times the square root of 3. 2 times 5 is 10. Get the square root of 3 behind it. And then on the bottom, when you multiply, 1 times 3 is 3. There's your 2 answers, the simplest radical form. All right, that's about as far as we're going to go with it today. So just like on the first time we did 45, 45, 90, if you don't pick it up right away, don't worry about it. We're going to come back and do a bunch more of these, both 45, 45, 90, and 30, 60, 90 tomorrow. So we'll kind of get you there if you're not there already. How many people think they got it figured out? Okay, coming along pretty nicely. Now, tomorrow, or when's the next day you guys come? Tuesday or Wednesday? Wednesday. When you guys come in on Wednesday, we are going to do an assignment for this, for 30, 60, 90, and then we're also going to do the study guide. So if you want to get a head start on the 30, 60, 90 assignment, that one is on page, it's the second part of page 562. So you've got some time today. If you want to start that today, you can. If you want to wait till you see some more of these examples tomorrow, that's fine also. Either way is okay. But if you want to get a head start, there is your assignment that we'll do next time you come to class. All right, that is it for today. Jillian, can you get the light again, please?